Now that we've sampled the top of Arizona, let's hit the trail from the Snowbowl trailhead. If the weather is clear, the parking lot is probably crowded. Not everyone here is headed for the summit, however. That's good, as the off-season makes this serious hike all the more serious. Some are taking a stroll through the aspens, painting the scenery, hiking one of the other trails in the area, or checking out the wildflowers in the meadow at the beginning of this 10-mile round-trip hike, such as lupins. Views west from this meadow are quite expansive, with Kendrick Peak dominating the landscape. Seeing some frost on the ground after a long hot summer is a refreshing reminder that we are entering a whole different world, Arizona's only alpine summit. Yarrow is another wildflower seen prior to entering the very different environment along the rocky trail in the mixed conifer forest just ahead. Being reminded that this area is a designated wilderness area helps us to enter the forest with the right mindset. This hike is no picnic. The exposed rocks, roots, and downed trees call for us to focus on the terrain. Visibility narrows to the ground immediately in front of us, with the spruce, fir, Douglas fir, pine, and occasional aspen forming a corridor through which we hike. Hiking early in the season increases the likelihood of having to climb over or duck under fallen trees. Late in the season, these obstacles have probably been removed. Due to the relatively heavy traffic on this trail, wildlife viewing is limited to smaller critters, though I have seen deer occasionally. The trail on this half of the hike is relatively straightforward to follow, unless the snow is deeper than a foot or two. As we approach timberline, above 11,500 feet above sea level, the views once again open up. This means the hiker will be fully exposed to lightning, wind, precipitation, and/or sun. Adequate protection in the form of protective clothing is essential, as the weather can change rapidly. Be prepared. Don't be caught off guard. Obviously, even if the weather is mild, the altitude alone can affect you or your companions. Watch for signs and be alert for the symptoms of altitude sickness, such as nausea, dizziness, headache, fatigue, etc. Looking out over the tops of the trees, we can see the horizon beyond Williams, toward Kingman. To the south, Arizona's second highest peak is clearly seen, Agassiz's Peak. Now that we are out of the shade of the trees, herbaceous plants are seen scattered about, though loose volcanic soil is prevalent. These small plants also find that cracks and crevices in the rocks offer a sheltered spot for seeds to get established. From the saddle at treeline, we can now see east into the inner basin, along with the summit of Humphrey's Peak to the north. From here, the trail follows exposed ridges and a crest to the top of Arizona. If lucky, the 360-degree view will extend north to the Grand Canyon. The beauty of this spot is seen and felt in all directions, from the clouds overhead to the varied hues of the volcanic soil beneath our feet. Bristlecone pine grows here and here alone in Arizona. The trail is more obscure above treeline, requiring extra effort to stay on the path to minimize damage to the alpine plants and soil. Welcome to the top of Arizona. Welcome back to our series on the great variety of hikes within the state of Arizona. We started with Yavapai County, now we are on the entire state, corner to corner. We're going to start with San Francisco Peaks, and you'll notice These peaks are an ancient volcano and they are quite beautiful. They are the high point in Arizona. So we start the hike. There's various places you can start, but we're going to start at the Snowbowl Trail head, which is about 9,000 feet in a meadow. Okay, you'll notice the profile that we have is giving you an understanding that the one-way distance is about 5 miles, round trip therefore a little over 10, and you're going to gain about 4,000 feet of elevation. All right, so it's going to be a significant day hike. You can of course hike other routes and spend more time there overnight. No surface water though, unless you're in Lockett Meadow, which we're going to get to. The fall colors up here are pretty outstanding. Arizona is not known for fall colors, but they're up here, and the fires is what is needed to clear the conifers for the aspens to grow. The inner basin offers another opportunity to hike from the east, which is a longer distance and a greater elevation gain. Lockett Meadow there is more wild. There is no camping actually allowed in Lockett Meadow. It has to do with Flagstaff's water supply. There is an opportunity here to hike. It's our only alpine summit to ascend when the snow is there, when it snows. And hiking up there in the winter to the summit is pretty challenging, but you can do it. The alpine trail this is our only alpine environment, which means that there is a rare and endangered plant there called Senecio franciscanus, all right, member of the sunflower family. And you need to stay on the trail. In fact, getting off the trail is big trouble, so you have to stay on the trail to protect the plant and other alpine vegetation there. It's rather fragile, okay? We've got another video of a hike up the trail so you can see it actually happening. But so enjoy the San Francisco Peaks Summit Trail as our only alpine hike in Arizona. Next, we're going to go to the bottom, which is the Sonoran Desert Colorado River phase down in the KOFA National Wildlife Refuge just northeast of Yuma. All right, there's a summit massive there called Castle Dome, which just rises up out of nowhere. King of Arizona is an old mine, silver mine, I believe, and that's what KOFA, where the name comes from. It's an acronym. So we've got a map of where this occurs in the state, very southwest corner, and you can get down to about 50 feet above sea level down there, so you get quite an extreme range. The profile there will show you that it's not a long hike, but it's mostly cross country. In fact, at the summit is a class 3 scramble, which means you have to use your hands. Okay, you're going to start in a wash. You'll see me hiking up that wash, and just notice the vegetation, much more sparse than other sections of the Sonoran Desert. You continue up the wash, and as you approach, you're going to scramble up the side of this hill to a prominent pinnacle. And then the scramble begins because it rises up so high out of nowhere. The views are spectacular. And you would think that there is nothing there, it's dead because it's all rock. That is not the case. It's amazing what kind of beauty can spring up out of apparent barrenness, all right? And you'll see little flowers springing up out of cracks in the rock, okay? And even though it's the Colorado River phase of the Sonoran Desert, there are some woody plants which remind you that we're in a semi-tropical zone, ironwood, mesquite, things like that. All right, next on our tour, quick throughout the whole state, is the White Tanks. Now there's a trail there. This is west side of Phoenix. This is the upper version or upper woodland portion of the Sonoran Desert. So it's much more woody, much more lush. You'll see me hiking there from the trailhead. I encountered a lady there who was asking how far it was and to the trailhead, and I said, don't you have a map? She says, well, good, if you can't read it. So it's important. You can get into the White Tanks here where you're actually in the mountains. You'll see the towers off at a distance. this particular trail, Ford Canyon, the ranger said, don't take kids on the trail because it's scary. And I said, yes, the kids will love it. So that's where we went with my nephew and my son, and of course they loved it. The name of White Tanks is because the floods that have washed through some of the canyons there have cleared out down to the bare rock, which is white. And so you have these solution pockets where you can find water up there, sometimes many months after it's rained, still there because it's shaded and they're deep and so forth. All right. The rain there is, when it does occur, will light up the desert. There are some wildflowers there, like I have a picture of scorpion weed, or it's an Amsinkia is the genus, with the borage family, which is a prominent spring wildflower in the Sonoran Desert. Okay, so enjoy the White Tanks. You can see the valley there, Phoenix, from various places on the hike. But you're going to notice again that this is a hike that actually allows you to get deep into the upper Sonoran Desert, and you will be as a million miles away from civilization sometimes when you're in some of these places. Next, the other corner now, we're going to go to Canyon de Chelly National Monument on the Navajo Reservation, extreme northeast Arizona by Four Corners. All right, so there's a White House Ruin Trail. This is the only trail in the monument where you can hike without a Navajo guide, okay? So it's a short hike. The trail is very well developed. You'll stand there and at sunrise, for example, and look down and just see the whole world lighting up beneath you. And you can see the trail as it snakes down through the bottom of the canyon where White House Ruin is. You cannot enter into the ruin because it's now fenced off, but it offers a riparian example where the desert up here is the Inner Basin Desert, Colorado Plateau, so it's not only hot in the summer, but it's very cold in the winter, so the extremes up there are more so than what you would expect, very dry also. But there is, since it is a riparian zone, you can have cottonwoods, serviceberry, other plants. There is always life out there on the land, and we just have to open up our eyes to notice it. There's some rules there. Additionally, you cannot photograph any of the native peoples without their permission, so just make sure that you're abiding by those restrictions, and you will enjoy this hike, introducing you to the huge importance of native life throughout history, and the pueblos up there and so forth are a good introduction to a different kind of life that we're not living so much anymore, much more simple. Okay. Next, we are going to the bottom of the state, back to the Wonderland of Rocks, where I'm originally from, around Bisbee. So this is the KOFA National Monument, and it's called Wonderland of Rocks because there are a lot of weird looking rocks up there. Fires go through the area occasionally, and more so here because it's wooded. You'll be 6,000 to 7,000 feet elevation up there, well-developed campground, but fires will have come through and it's going to change the landscape, but the rocks don't change. When the wood burns up, the rocks just stay the same. So there are very curious examples: camel, duck on a rock, Punch and Judy, so forth. And anyway, some of them are named, and then you can use your imagination because you can come up with some names of your own, all right? Because it's just very opportunity for creation or creativity as you look at the land and say, what is it saying to me? We would talk about, you know, when we were little, clouds and what image we would see in the clouds. The rocks can do the same thing. Okay, there are plenty of wildflowers there in the spring. When fire comes through an area, it seems like it kills things and destroys things at first, but there's a rejuvenation and a refreshing that the land experiences when you clear out some of the clutter. So that's what fire accomplishes. So catchfly campion, daisy, It's a good example or a place to see Arizona cypress, which is an uncommon member of the juniper family. So you'll notice that down there too, being well developed. Okay. All right. That's the southeast corner. All right. We've been in most corners except for the extreme northwest Arizona Strip, the Beaver Dam Mountains Wilderness on the Bureau of Land Management. All right. This area is actually split in two. There's a north unit and a south unit. The vegetation up here, the Mojave Desert now coming in. So we've seen all four desert influences on this tour of hiking variety within the state of Arizona. Okay, now we're in the Mojave Desert. You'll notice creosote up here because it grows everywhere except for up on the Colorado Plateau. It's just a little too cold in the winter. But it does come through the Mojave Desert. Along with that, you'll see Joshua trees, a real prominent vegetation type in the Mojave Desert. So those will be common up there, which is a member of the Yucca genus group of plants. So it's not a cactus. Okay. The vegetation is sparse and it's barren, seemingly, because it is a desert, right? So the prominent cliffs and the colors and the geology will be quite stunning. All right, so you're going to see great views. As I mentioned, there's a north and a south unit. There's a road that goes through the middle of it, so you have pretty good access and different trailheads. There are no trails. Well, very few trails. So mostly it's a cross country, just exploring, but you have it wide open because there's so little vegetation that you can see where you're going, and so route finding should not be a problem. Okay. Our final section will be the Blue Range primitive area. Now we are away from the corners. We're now on the eastern edge in the White Mountains of Arizona. Okay, and we're going to talk more about the elevation variety within the state. But right now in the Blue Range primitive area, it's White Mountains, extreme eastern Arizona, and the elevation is not as high as some of the other places we'll talk about later, but it's a very large area. Fires again have come through there, and so the vegetation has been cleared out, but that allows for some great summer wildflowers lining the trail, just thousands of different plants. The canyons, there's creeks running through there, so you're going to see a lot of different vegetation types. Logs over the water, so you're going to maybe have to scramble over the top of the log above the creek. That's pretty exciting. Don't fall in. But it's just a huge area, backpacking opportunities if you were to day hike, because there's access routes all around it. Be prepared for the trail conditions to either be gone or very difficult to follow. All right, so that is our tour of the variety of hiking within the state of Arizona, corner to corner. All right, so I hope you enjoy it. There's never a reason to not hike in Arizona. If it's in the winter, hike in the desert. If it's too hot, summer, then hike higher elevation. So we have it all, no hibernation. We'll see you next when we talk about middle elevation hiking.